We don't have any more public comments. Do we have Traffic and Mobility Commissioner comments or questions? Commissioner Linke?
Yeah, I just want to make another plea, I guess, to get the various traffic impact guidelines and program documents on our agenda. I think today would have probably been a great day because there's really not much on our agenda, to have at least taken an initial look at things like the transportation impact analysis guidelines and the vehicle miles traveled, TDM program, so the traffic impact fee program. Those are all things that the council has prioritized. And so kind of relevant to the presentation that was just given, the Planning Commission over the past, in the last month, has approved another, or has recommended approval of another project that it's on Palomar Airport Road. And they're relying on something called unbundled parking as part of their way of addressing the traffic that they're introducing, which is a way that they, by that method, they unbundle the cost of parking from the apartment. So it's about 200 apartments. And by unbundling it, they charge extra, and that's supposed to disincentivize people from owning vehicles. But the only way that works is if the people have an alternative to use. And so what the staff propose and the developer propose is that they would take the bus. But the bus stops on Palomar Airport Road next to that facility, next to where that's being built, there's 5 buses per day. It's a sign sticking out of the ground, and only 1 person per day on average uses it. And so we have all these sort of flowery documents saying that we're going to promote non-vehicle usage. But when a project comes up, and I make suggestions for example, I suggested maybe they should put a bus shelter there. They should put lighting there so it's not pitch dark next to cars traveling 60 miles an hour right next to the sign, and all they want to do is put a bench and a trash can there. The thing that would fix this, I think, is if we tighten up the rules to, another thing I suggested is just to put a crosswalk there, just to put a high visibility crosswalk across Palomar Airport Road so that the future residents there can get to that bus stop. All of it was just completely ignored. And so I think we really need, and we really need to review those documents. The irony is that, and I've probably mentioned this before, the irony is that the development staff is saying, well, we don't have to follow the current TIA guidelines because they've never been publicly reviewed. But here we are, they're simultaneously not allowing us to review them. They also have approved transportation demand management measures in the past for projects, and said you need to fund it. But then when it comes time to build the project, instead of asking them to fund it, they say, oh, we forgot to put that in the traffic impact fee program. So this is just a cycle that's gone on, and we need to review these things. So I guess my question to staff is, do we have a plan? I ask this every month now. Do we have a plan for what's the timing for our commission to be reviewing these guidelines that staff is simultaneously saying we don't have to follow them because they've never undergone public review? And I know it's not necessarily the transportation department staff that I'm referring to, but is there a plan on when we will see the TIA guidelines, VMT guidelines, the traffic impact fee program, and a residential TDM program? Another thing, so just like give me 20 more seconds here, is that in 2015, we passed the general plan, and it has a mobility element that says projects that add traffic to streets that have been exempted because the vehicle traffic is so heavy have to engage in transportation demand management. But for the last 5 years, we have not had a transportation demand management plan for residential projects, which is the biggest impact. And so we need to see these things. So I'm going to end my rant there, but I'm going to do this each month and ask, when are we going to see these things?
Mr. Frank?
Yeah, Commissioner Linke, I appreciate your comments, and I'll answer to your comments and questions. So we looked at our timeline, and I totally appreciate and agree that the subjects which you commented on are extremely important and high priorities for the city and for the commission to address. Just none of the items were at a point where we felt we could productively put together a report and include it in this agenda. So apologize for that. And the timing just didn't work out for bringing forward any of those topics. Regarding the timing and what our target plan is for the items, I can commit to bringing forward a target schedule or more information regarding the schedule for the different items. They are, as you know, they're pretty complex issues. So it's challenging to get all of our, I guess, work plan items identified and scheduled for all of the different items, but we'll do our best to provide some sort of a high level milestone schedule for addressing those items for the commission.
If I could just make a suggestion, is maybe an initial meeting could be used to introduce them, not necessarily with any plan, but just introduce them. And then, like we've done in the past with other large documents like this, have an initial meeting to introduce them, solicit comment from the commission, and then come up with the staff report the next month or a month after that or something.
Yeah, it's good suggestion and received.
Hey,
Thank you.
Commissioner Fowler, did you have a question? You're muted.
Oh, I just have a brief comment,
Okay.
not a question. So, you know, it's interesting. This is a little bit up my area about records management, which generally is designed to make sure that things like records retention and all that kind of stuff gets cared for, and the records themselves are managed properly, but not searching through them. That was not the primary goal of it. There's a whole other area of search called enterprise search, where you just throw everything in a big index and you can have the Google experience of putting in Linky and getting it, find every instance of Linky, relevancy ranked, and so forth. And I'd always hoped that Carlsbad would come up with some scheme like that, and getting closer with it. But records management is really a tool for the employees and to make sure that the records are properly stored and it meets legal requirements and things like that. But research is a different kind of use case, and I'd like to see that somebody in the city look at that possibility, and I think it would kind of help everyone. The tool looks great. I mean, you know, obviously much better than it was, but still going through all these templates and things, all you really want to know is Linky there somewhere? And I want to see, you know, where he's been. And so that's entirely possible. And even if it's been in, you know, OCR'd or whatever, all those problems have long been solved. So anyway, that's my point.
Thank you, Commissioner Fowler. And I think most unlikely Commissioner Linky is the one that uses it most, but we do really appreciate you using it the most. So just because we pick on you that you use it the most, we actually do appreciate all your hard work, and we're very grateful for the contribution that you bring to this commission. So I just want to make sure that you know that. Commissioner Pencia, you had a question or comment? No, Commissioner, okay, Vice Chair Perez.
Yeah, thank you. I got two things I wanted to just bring up. You know, one was I think for Mr. Frank, is it the service connection that we have, the new app that's going on right now? I just wanted to make sure I did a little plug on that when I was running down Carlsbad Boulevard. No, not running, trying to run or jog or do whatever to get into shape. But there was a couple of people that were talking about something that needed to be done, and so I just kind of referenced them to the app, and so hopefully we'll see some kind of requests or anything like that. But in regards to this, is there any, for the traffic and mobility, say if it's anything related into like sidewalks or things like that, will we have privy or any information on like a metrics on how we're doing with that, or, you know, to get any information on that? That's one question. And then the other one that I have is just really quick, is just, you know, last week we had that major storm that went by, and I noticed that we had, you know, a lot of debris. And I just wanted to see with Mr. Frank if, you know, storm drains, everything was looking good. We didn't have any kayakers out there on the streets. But also too, I think it was just more of, I was really interested in how our response team is, because I've seen like these 24-hour response teams coming around, looking at the streets to, you know, to remove debris or anything that's clogging up the roads out there. So again, I don't know if that's a part of our scope, but you know, it'd be nice to understand what our response is for, you know, when we have a storm or some kind of, it's not a disaster, but just, you know, a heavy storm or something like that.
I think that's within our purview of the city engineer's report, just to provide a status update. That one of the topics was on a previous agenda, so it's really a follow-up item. And that was Merwin Drive, when you're referring to the kayak, the new multimodal transportation form. Well, I was happy to report that we actually did have 2 significant rainstorms. One was, I think, on December 28th, and the one was last week, which the first one was only a ½ inch of rain, and then the second one was over an inch of rain. And just as a standard operating procedure, we do watch the weather forecasts for any significant rain event for the issue which you mentioned, and that's to prepare the city the best we can to receive the rainfall, and put in proper best practices to address any known sensitive areas. So we do look at the conditions of our storm drains. You've heard that we have annual programs to clean the debris from the storm drains. Where we know we have hot spots, we do focus on those hotspot areas to see what best practices we need to put into place. An example of that is, I'm sure you heard of the Park Drive fire, or the burn area along Park Drive. And so I was actually, our team did a tremendous job. Like, as we were called out to the emergency operating center that same day, we were thinking about what does the weather forecast look like, and we saw the rain event coming. And then the next day in the morning, like within hours of the fire, actually the fire was still smoldering, and there were still, you know, engines out there putting out the fire. Our team was out there assessing what BMPs, or best management practices, could be put in place to address the coming rain and the potential erosion and the hillside issues. So we do look at that. That's our standard operating procedure. And I'm happy to report on Merwin Drive. I was out there. I was sending videos to my team and to Paz and the city manager's office, and they're probably getting tired of me because I was such an engineering geek. But it was fascinating to watch the hydraulic flows on that street, and it did perform really well. We did our temporary fix, as I explained. We Hossein's team, Mr. Ajide's, or Dr. Ajide's team, installed a storm drain discharge structure, which was basically lowering the drainage elevation so that we wouldn't have that reoccurring flooding problem in an interim condition. That's assuming that, you know, the sedimentation basin is at a lower elevation and doesn't raise up above the drainage discharge structure elevation. So it performed really good. We're still obviously looking at long-term improvements that could be done to that area. So that's kind of covering how we operate for forecast storms, and how we focus on the best management practices for coming storm events. Regarding the matrix, that's something that we can consider for the Carlsbad Connects on what we could provide you, which would be useful information. But yeah, that's a good suggestion, and I'll leave it at that and see if you have any other questions. Because regarding that hydrology stuff, or the hydrology and hydraulics, it is really interesting to me, and I could go on for hours about it, but good stuff. And I was really happy to see that Merwin Drive did not have those issues.
Thank you.
Okay, any other commissioner comments or questions? No? Okay, let's see, 4:30. A little bit longer than I expected it with 2 items on the agenda, but we'll take it. Okay, you ready to adjourn? We're gonna adjourn at 4:31 p.m. Thank you all. Bye, see you next month.